Okay, so what we want to do today is basically I'm gonna solve an example from each of these, and then we're gonna work with the activities. I did ask you guys to draw the triangles yesterday so that today you guys could have had those ready and it would be easier. Okay, so I will be using my phone today because my tablet is occupied at the moment, so I have to use I'm doing my best with my cell phone at the moment, right? The example that we started working with yesterday was this one where we have to find B. Now, when we use small letters, we are looking for a side, and then when we are working with capital letters, then it's asking you to find an angle. So this is the one that we started talking about yesterday. I'm just gonna solve this one so that you guys have an idea of what you are to do, and then we're gonna move into the first 4 questions of the worksheet. All right? So if I'm going to be finding B, that means that I am looking for that one right there. I am looking for the length of a side, meaning that when I find my answer has to be a number and meters. You have to remember that very carefully. All right? So, in this case, I have to make sure that when I write my final answer, I'm writing it in meters, right? Now, what the question gives me is this angle, and this angle is theta. So that's my theta, and it gives me this side. All right? Now, if 25 degrees is theta, what is the 8 meters? What side do we call that? The adjacent. Very good. This is my adjacent. This is my hypotenuse. And then B is automatically my opposite. Right? Now, if I am working with the adjacent, and I'm working with the opposite, what formula am I going to be using? And this is where we use SOHCAHTOA, right? SOHCAHTOA. Sine has opposite, hypotenuse, cosine has adjacent, hypotenuse, and tangent has opposite and adjacent. So in this case, I'm working with opposite and adjacent, so I have to use tangent. So I'm going to use tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. Right? And I substitute what the question gives me. So I have tangent of 25 is equal to, what is the opposite? Well, the opposite is B. I don't know what it is. And the adjacent is 8. So now I have tangent of 25 degrees is equal to B over A. We go back to what we did last school year in algebra. I am looking for the value of B. I need to leave B by itself on one side. So if I'm going to be leaving B by itself, I need to remove that 8. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to have tangent of 25 degrees times 8 is equal to B. Is that clear to everyone? Okay, now on your calculators, this is what I want you to do. You are going to be putting tan, open brackets 25, close brackets times 8, and then the equal sign. Do that on your calculator, and then I want to see the answers in the chat. Okay, very good. So then that means that B is equal to 3.73 meters. And that is going to be my answer. Any questions? So this is the first question that is in Google Classroom. This is number 1. You guys should have already have this drawn in your notebook or on your sheet of paper. And the question is saying that I want the value of the opposite side. I want to know what is the length of the opposite side, right? So that's why I have opposite in the yellow box on the side, because that is what you have to look for. So they're not giving you a letter in this case, all right? Now, theta in this case is 30 degrees. That's my theta. So I'm going to use that angle to label all my other sides. All right. So 6. What is 6 centimeters? What do we call that side?
Hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse. Very good. So then this is the hypotenuse. The side that is beside theta is what we call the adjacent. And the side that is right across from theta is what we call the opposite. So I have labeled my triangle. And the question here says that I am looking for the opposite. So this is the side that I am looking for. Right? Okay. So this question gives me the opposite, gives me the hypotenuse, and gives me theta. So those 3 things. Theta, opposite, hypotenuse. What formula am I going to be using that has opposite and hypotenuse?
Sine.
Sine. Very good. We're going to be using sine. So now the formula for sine is sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. All right? And I substitute what the question gives me. So I have sine of 30 degrees is equal to opposite, I don't know what that is, over the hypotenuse, which is 6. I want to leave the opposite by itself because that is what I need to solve for. I need the value of that. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to take sine of 30. I'm going to times it by 6 so that the opposite stays by itself. And then in your calculators again, put sine of 30 degrees times 6. And remember your brackets, right? Sine, open brackets, 30 degrees, close brackets, times 6. And then the equal sign. And then let me know what that gives you.
3 Miss 3.
3 exact?
Yes.
Okay. So my answer is not only 3, but my answer is 3 centimeters. Okay, can I move on to the other one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Miss.
So this is the second one. You have 20 degrees, and 20 degrees is going to be theta.
Miss, I didn't finish cooking.
Okay, let me go back quickly. Okay, there you go. Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. So in this second question, we have that theta is going to be 20 degrees. You have 9 centimeters, and then in this case, we are looking now for the adjacent. All right. So now, what do we call 9 centimeters in this case?
Hypotenuse. Hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse, very good. The side that is beside 20 degrees is what we call the adjacent. And then the side that is right across is what we call the opposite. Right? So now what we are looking for in this case, like 11:30. I don't know. Maybe a little bit earlier. ¿Qué horas van a ir? Okay then. Van a llevar Zane? Okay, sorry about that, guys. So, as I was saying, theta is going to be 20 degrees, hypotenuse is 9 centimeters, and in this case, we're looking for the adjacent. So I need a formula that has adjacent in it and has hypotenuse, because that's the only thing that they give me. I don't want to use adjacent and opposite because I don't know any of those two. All right. So what
Cosine.
formula has adjacent and hypotenuse?
Cosine.
Cosine. Very good. So I'm going to have cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over the hypotenuse. All right, my formula. I'm going to substitute what the question gives me. So I have cosine of 20 degrees is equal to the adjacent, which I do not know, and then the hypotenuse, which is 9. So if you're realizing, every question basically has the same procedures, right? You just have to identify which formula, substitute, and solve. 3 simple steps. So in this case, I want the adjacent to stay by itself, so I'm going to have cosine of 20 degrees times 9 is equal to the adjacent. So in your calculators, cosine 20 degrees times 9, what is the value?
8.45 is.
8.45.
Yes.
Okay, did anybody else get that answer?
Yes, miss.
8.45
8.45.
centimeters. Remember your units, right? I am showing you all the units. If you send me a picture of your homework and it does not have the unit, I'm sorry, but it's gonna be wrong. Remember your units. Okay, can we move on to the other one?
Yes, miss.
Yes? So in this question, now we're looking for the hypotenuse. They give me theta being 25 degrees. And I want to label my triangle, right? Always label your triangle. So this side is the hypotenuse. Why is that side the hypotenuse? Because the right angle is right here, and the hypotenuse is always opposite to the right angle, right? The side that is right beside the 25 degrees is what we call the adjacent, and the side that is across the theta is what we call the opposite. All right? So now I need to find the hypotenuse, and the question gives me the information for the adjacent. So which formula has adjacent and hypotenuse?
Cosine, miss?
Cosine, very good. Cosine. So I'm using cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over the hypotenuse. I have cosine of 25 is equal to adjacent is 12, and the hypotenuse I do not know what that is. And I want to leave the hypotenuse by itself on one side. In this question, the hypotenuse is at the bottom of the fraction. So I cannot do what I was doing in the other questions. All right? What I'm going to be doing here now is that I'm going to switch the places of the hypotenuse and the cosine.
It's not the left angle.
Repeat again, Arja?
The formula is for right angles, right?
Yes, the formula is for right angles. Okay, so now in your calculators now, you are going to be writing 12 divided open brackets cosine 25 close brackets. That is what I want you to insert in your calculator. So 12 divided by cosine of 25, and then you press equal sign.
13.24, miss. 13.24 centimeter.
13.24
Centimeters.
centimeters. Okay. So my hypotenuse, and I'm gonna write it here at the bottom, 13.24 or 13.2. One decimal point works fine. You don't have to write the entire decimal that is there. And then centimeters. So that is gonna be your answer. Anybody has any questions?
No, miss.
No questions? Okay. Okay. Can I move on?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, good. Next question. In this question, we are also looking for the hypotenuse. Alright, number 4 of the first part, you're also looking for the hypotenuse. 40 degrees is going to be theta. And the 10 centimeters in this case is the adjacent because it's right beside theta. The side across from it is the opposite. And then the side that is opposite to the right angle is going to be my hypotenuse. Alright, now in this case, I am given the adjacent right here, and I have to look for the hypotenuse. So which formula am I using?
cosine, miss?
Cosine, very good. So I'm using cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, right? I substitute cosine of 40 degrees is equal to 10 over the hypotenuse. Alright, all I did was substitute my values. Because what is missing is at the bottom of the fraction, I'm going to switch the places of cosine and hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is equal to 10 over cosine of 40 degrees. And then in your calculator, that is what you will be writing.
13.05.
I heard two different answers. It's 10 division, open brackets, cosine 40.
13.05 means
13.05.
Yes, miss.
Okay. 13.05 centimeters. Yeah. Now, a little hint on how to be able to identify if your answers are correct or not. If you are looking for the hypotenuse, usually your answers are bigger than the adjacent and the opposite. So if you notice in this case, the adjacent is 10, the hypotenuse has to be a number bigger than 10, right? Or else you will have an abnormal triangle. So those are the first 4 questions of the worksheet. Anybody has any question based on these ones?
no miss.
No? Good. Example number 2. Now we have seen how to find a missing side because small letters represent sides. In this question, we are being asked to calculate for capital A. Now what does a capital letter mean? Right here is that we are looking for this angle. When we use capital letters, we are talking about angles, right? So in this case, I am looking for this angle right here, right? So what I'm going to be doing, is that I need to identify this one. I'm going to mark it here and I'm going to just put an X, all right? So because I don't know and that's what I'm looking for. So now, I need to label my triangle. First step always. What is this 7? If X is going to be our theta, what is the 7? What side is that 7?
Adjacent.
The 7. Right
Opposite.
across. What do we call
Opposite.
something that is right across? The opposite. Very good. Now what do we call the 4 that is right beside it?
The adjacent.
The adjacent. Very good. And then the other side, the longest side, is what we call the hypotenuse. Alright? Now, the formula, any of the 3 formulas, sine, cosine, tangent, asks me for 3 things. For theta and for 2 sides. Alright? I do not know what theta is. I am looking for the value of theta. That means that for me to be able to find theta, I need to know 2 sides. And the question gives me 2 sides. The question gives me the opposite and the question gives me the adjacent. So what formula has opposite and adjacent?
Then
Tangent. Very good. So I'm going to be using tangent. Tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. And I'm going to substitute. So tangent of x, because I don't know what it is equal to opposite, which is 7, and adjacent, which is 4. Now I need to leave x by itself. I need to get rid of that tangent that is in front of the x. How do I do that? This is where the arc trig ratios come into play. I want x by itself, so I'm gonna write arc tan of this fraction. If I wanted to remove the sign, I would put sine of -1. If I would remove the cosine, I would put cosine of -1. In this specific question, I want to remove tangent. So I will put tangent -1, arc tan. Alright? So in your calculators now, you are going to press the shift button. Then you are going to press the tangent button. And then you're going to write 7 divided by 4. That is what I want you to put in your calculator.
Excuse me, miss, that's an example, right?
Yeah, this is an example. This is not on the worksheet.
Okay.
Ya lo hice.
20.46.
20.46. Very good. Anybody got a different answer?
Point 25.
20.25. Okay, so this is what I usually make sure that your calculator is set to degrees, guys. Degrees. Remember we talked about this yesterday?
60.25.
60.25.
Yes, miss, and it's in degree.
Okay, let me check it. Let me check it right now. I want
60.25, miss.
it should be 60.25. Yes. Right now, let me see. Function. I want arc sine of what is it? 7 divided by 4. And then close brackets. And then that should give me it's not tangent. It should give you 60.255, so 60.26. So let me see. Let's undo this one. 60.25.3. I'm gonna round it off. 60.3 degrees. When you are doing it in your calculator, you have to make sure that when you press the shift tangent, it appears as tangent -1. Then you open the brackets and 7 divided by 4, close brackets. That is how you have to insert it in your calculators. Anybody has any questions on this one?
Miss, a mí me salió 60.25.
But I rounded it off. 60.25 is 60.3. It's the same thing. I rounded it off to 1 decimal point.
Miss, this is an example, no?
Yes, this is an example. Okay, can I move on?
Miss, yes.
Okay. So this is the first question that I have in the worksheet now.
Miss, miss, so the answer that you get, you just put the degree, the degree sign.
Yeah. So these questions that we're gonna work with right now, we're finding an angle. So all of your answers have to have the little degree symbol, right? It can't just be 60.3. It has to be 60.3 degrees. Right? Okay. So in this question now, we have theta over on this side. That is what I'm looking for. Alright? I'm going to label my triangle now. So this side is the hypotenuse. The side that is right beside theta is the adjacent, and the side that is across from theta is the opposite. In this case, the only two numbers that are given to me is the adjacent and the opposite. So what formula am I using?
Tangent.
Tangent. Very
Tangent.
good. Tangent. So I'm going to have tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. And then I have tangent of x is equal to opposite, which is 4, and adjacent, which is 8. I'm going to leave x by itself, so I have tangent of negative 1 of 4 over 8. And what is the value of x?
$26.5.
26.5.
26.5.
26.5 minutes.
Yes, 26.5 degrees.
Miss not 27.
26.5. No, 20. What did you guys say? 26.25 or 26.5?
26.65.
26.5.
56. That's nice. 26.56.
Me paren de confundir.
26.56, miss.
31.26.
Let me see. Let me check
That's,
here on my calculator.
that's 26.5, miss.
Miss chocolate, paren de confundir
26.56.
la
Miss
maestra.
the 27 is because they round it
It
off.
should be 26.56. So if you round it off, it should be 26.7 degrees. Alright, if you want to round it off to a whole number, then it's 27 degrees flat. Right? But if we're keeping it to one decimal, it is 26.7. Alright, so it all depends how you are keeping your answer. I prefer one
The
decimal place
26.6,
because
miss.
it's. Repeat again?
The not 26.6.
Yes, it's 26.5. 26, yes. I'm sorry about that. 26.6. Yes, that's correct. The calculator
That's
has 26.56. So when I round it up, it's 26.6.
so the final answer is 26.6 degrees, right?
Yeah, that's the final answer, yes. Okay, thank you, Argel, for that. Can I move on to the other one?
Yes, miss,
Yes,
yes.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
Yes. Are you guys understanding? Let me know if you're
Yes, yes, yes.
understanding, right?
Yeah,
Now,
miss. Esa maestra ko está fácil.
okay, let's move on then.
It's just like deciding which formulas, miss.
Yep, so the trickiest part is deciding which formula to use. Once you have the formula set, from there everything should run smoothly, right? So, I have theta right here. I'm going to label the triangle. Hypotenuse over this side, adjacent over this side, and opposite over this side. And I am using opposite and I am using adjacent. So what formula do I have to use?
Tangent.
Tangent, miss.
Tangent, very good. Tangent. So I'm going to use tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. I'm gonna substitute what I know. Tangent is equal to 2 over 1, right? But tangent of x is equal to 2, because what is 2 over 1? 2 over 1 is 2, right? So I can write it as 2, then I'm going to leave x by itself, and I'm going to put the inverse of tan is equal to, well, and then 2. The inverse of tan of 2. In your calculators, what would that be?
53.4.
63.4.
63.4. Did everybody get that?
Yes, miss.
Yes? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds to copy that down. Okay, can I move on to the other one?
Yes, miss.
Yes?
Yes, miss.
Yes, yes.
Okay. In this one now, I have theta over here. I have hypotenuse here, adjacent here, and opposite here. For this question now, I am using the hypotenuse and I'm using the opposite. So what formula has opposite and hypotenuse? Sine, very good. So I'm going to have sine of theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. I'm going to substitute sine of x is equal to opposite 5, hypotenuse 7. I'm going to remove this sine. So that is inverse of sine of 5 over 7. And what does that give you?
46.5, miss.
46.5. Okay.
No, miss, is for 45.58. Base round it up, base 45.6.
Yes, 45.5. Yes.
Pero
Ganon.
by 45.6 base, si base round it up, miss.
Okay, so
Yes,
I
gabi this point. It's around the top.
45.6. That's what I got. 45.6 degrees. Okay. Okay, can I move on to the other one?
Yes, miss, yes.
Yes. So in this one, I have theta here, hypotenuse, adjacent, and opposite. I am using the hypotenuse and I'm using the opposite. So what formula is that?
Sine, miss.
Sine. Very good. The sine of theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to have sine of x is equal to hypotenuse, which is 6, opposite, sorry, which is 3, and hypotenuse, which is 6. I'm going to remove the sine, so that becomes the inverse and I have 3 over 6. So what is the value of x in this case?
Thirty.
30 exact. Very good. 30 degrees. Esther, I don't hear you when you are speaking. I didn't hear you when you were talking. Sorry about that. I'm not sure if it's on my end or on your end. Okay, guys. So that is basically the worksheet for this week. So go. Anybody has any questions?
No, miss, no.
Miss, I have done the work that you give us this month.
The poster, I did assign the poster first
Yes,
because that
but
one was very easy for you guys to
yes, yes,
accomplish.
but where I will send it that work, Miss?
In Google Classroom, let me
Miss, ni
yes,
cabe copiar el último, Miss.
I will be posting it in Google Classroom, guys, and then I will be posting the recording as well.